What's up, everybody? It is Pastor Chris, and it is Fun Week at C3 Hampton, the best church on the peninsula. And tonight is going to be a fun night. I want you guys to come on in. Everybody, just come on and check in with us tonight. I know y'all have been waiting for this live discussion tonight. We are having an interview with our leaders. We're having an interview with the Franciscos, and it's going to be so much fun. Hey, Miss Robbie, we see you in there. Y'all, come on, go ahead right now and share this live. Let somebody know that we're live at C3 Hampton on Facebook and on YouTube. So tonight is going to be fun. This is what I need everybody to do tonight. Number one, go ahead and share this. When you share this, hashtag C3 is me, so that some people can join in on this conversation tonight. And as we talk tonight, if you have any questions that you want to ask Bishop, Dr. Natalie, or their children tonight, you get to ask those questions. And we're going to ask them live on the air. So go ahead and start tuning in right now. It's going to be a fun night. So I'm going to go ahead and bring on Bishop and Dr. Natalie Francisco. They're going to come on and join me at this time. Y'all clap your virtual hands for our amazing leaders. It's good to see y'all. It's so good to see y'all. Everybody's responding. Good evening, all this good stuff. Welcome. I know y'all are on tonight, and we gave y'all no clue what I'm going to be talking about. Which is going to make this even the more fun, because Dr. Natalie is a very prepared woman of God, and she doesn't know what we're going to talk about tonight, so it's going to be fun. So just tell us really quick, how are you guys doing? You know, we kind of been locked down a little bit. We're missing our church family, but just tell us how you guys are doing tonight.
Well, we're doing well, in the midst of and in spite of COVID-19 and civil unrest throughout our nation. And of course, the homegoing of Congressman John Lewis. God is still in control. And so we've been doing well. We've been getting more rest probably than we've gotten in a long time. It's not like we can really go anywhere, but we just celebrated, for those of you who may not know, our 37th wedding anniversary this past Monday. So yay for that.
Absolutely. So awesome.
Yeah, we're just weathering the storm, and as my wife said, we're not really going anywhere, but we're getting a lot of the projects around the house done.
That's true.
Just enjoying each other and seeing what we can be productive in. So a lot of time to read, meditate, create, and think. And so we're excited about that, and feel really good about it.
Mm-hmm.
That's so good. That's so good. So really quick, before we bring the rest of the Francisco clan on tonight, we, like you just said, Dr. Nat, you just celebrated your wedding anniversary, which brings us to our first question. For those who may be kind of new to the family and just don't know yet, tell us all how you guys met. Tell us how you met.
Well, this might not be a surprise, but we met in church. And actually, but the amazing thing is, before we knew each other, our parents actually knew each other. And it just so happened that his family, before they bought their first house, moved in with your uncle. And it just so happened that house was directly behind my house where I grew up. And so our mothers became very, very good friends, fathers when they met. And then they ended up in teenage years going on vacation together, doing things together. We would have never foreseen that we would be in a romantic relationship, because as we grew up, we referred to each other as cousins. Isn't that something?
Wow.
So we had a lot of explaining to do.
That's good. Yeah. That's good, because how important is it? I'm gonna ask you this, Bishop. How important is it to build a friendship first before getting into that love relationship? Like, how important was that? Did you guys have an awesome friendship before you guys started dating?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think that's how you get to know a person, rather than just being romantically involved, because that part can wane as time goes on. If people only relate on a romantic level, it's not gonna last long. But to be a friend, to know each other, to have certain things in common and vision and dream. And I understand the Bible when it says to don't be unequally yoked.
Right.
Not just in terms of a Christian, but just in terms of having a like vision and like passion. My wife always wanted more. I always wanted more. We both had a desire to expand and work and put in the effort to get to do what we thought we needed to do. And so it's important to have a good friendship, because if you connect with a person, they don't want much out of life and you want a lot out of life, problem number one.
That's
Or if
true.
you connect with a person who's lazy and you are a go-getter, problem number two. If you connect with a person who doesn't like to talk and you like to talk, problem number three. And it just goes on and on. So it's best to get to know the person first. And I think that's so important.
Yeah, that's one of the things I really admired about him. We would, just talk about what we each wanted out of life. And then we saw, I believe, the potential in each other, which I also think is an important thing. Rather than going into a relationship, and really when we did that, we didn't know we were going to be in a relationship. But we saw, I think each other's heart, and that might sound quote unquote spiritual, but I think people need to learn how to look past the physical demeanor, the countenance, and see into a person's mind and heart and see what is relatable. And I think we both respected each other on that level first.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So you guys kind of grew up knowing each other,
Yeah.
built a nice friendship. Tell us about Dr. Nat. What was the first date? We want to know, what was the first date, if you remember?
Oh man, I don't know if we can consider it a date. I just remember him taking me to a football game because during my senior year, I was asked to sing the national anthem before the game. And so at that point, I didn't have a car yet. The car I was going to drive, my sister had taken it to work. And so I said, I'm going to call my cousin. I told you we referred to each other as cousins. So it was during that football game in my senior year. And I can remember after the national anthem and coming to sit down and we were talking. But that was the first time when I actually felt something in my gut that was unexplainable to me. I had never felt that in my life. And I can remember looking at him, and I think I might have shared it with you. It seemed like he was looking past me. That's why I said looking into my soul. I felt that. And it was weird, it was scary, and it was exciting all at the same time. So I guess that would be the first time. Yeah, because that's when things shifted. Yeah.
That's so good. Bishop, was the look intentional?
Well, as she said, it kind of grew. I was always considered her a friend, or like she said, we were cousins, so-called cousins. But the chemistry started taking effect and started seeing. The first time I noticed that, oh, this is a pretty nice looking young lady, and because I never looked at her in that respect before. So. And then I think, again, it evolved as we started talking about different dreams that we had for the future and what we wanted. And at that time, I didn't really have a whole lot. So we were just talking and dreaming.
Yeah.
But I think she said something key component, and that is to be able to see potential in a person. Because if I had to do it all over again, I wouldn't have married me because I didn't have that much going on at the time. But I did have drive. I did have potential.
Oh, yeah, more than anybody I knew.
And I think that's the thing that we really kind of connected on, because I could see in her a person who wasn't a quitter and who was able to deal with tough times. And I knew that the course that God had laid out for my life wasn't going to be an easy one. It was going to be some tough times. And there were several times that after we got married and I came home, I thought, man, I know she left me today, because I would have left me. But she hung in there and stayed there the whole time. So here we are 37 years later.
Holding on to the promise still.
So
Yeah.
good. And I think that's super important for everybody that's watching. If y'all are enjoying this, y'all go ahead and give our awesome leaders, just give us some hand claps emojis real quick. Just light up the comment section. We got some people saying happy anniversary.
Thank you.
Everybody
Thank
who wants
you so
some love
much.
right now. And I think this conversation, as we're about to kind of transition into another conversation, is super important because some people come into your lives on a chapter that's like in the middle of your life or, further ahead in your life, and they just don't see, how things started, and they begin to think, oh, this must have just been a fairy tale, or you guys just grew up with some kind of privilege, or you always had it, or it was always, peaches and cream. But thank you guys so much for letting us in on kind of the beginning times. And we just want to talk about that a little bit. So a little bit fast forward, you get married and you start building a life together. Talk to us about how that was in the beginning stages. I know, Bishop, you talked about it sometimes when you preach, and you talked about, how you guys had to have vision when you were in a small home and how you had to see things before you actually saw things. So talk to us a little bit about that time before we bring in the rest of the Franciscos.
Okay. Yeah, I think the beginning stages for us were probably some of the most difficult because I had created a scenario in business and had a lot of financial challenges, and I share this story in preaching sometimes that it wasn't hardly a day that went by that the sheriff wasn't visiting our house dropping off a
Judgments.
judgment or a warrant or something for a debt. But that's a long story within itself. How about 2 or 3 months after we were married, I ended up filing bankruptcy, and a series of domino effects of other business ventures and deals kind of fell through. So we were just going through the bare bones stations portion of life and just trying to make it. But again, before all of this talk about vision and seeing it, that was something that became real to us. We started envisioning the house we wanted to live in. We started envisioning the family we wanted to have, and we didn't have anybody to teach us that. We didn't have any. There was nobody that we could Google because Google wasn't in existence back then. There was no social media to tell us about it.
Right.
It was something that was God ordained organically. That I found a picture of a house in the newspaper, and I told my wife, I said, we're gonna move into this house in 1 year. And we had no credit, we had no money, we had nothing.
But you took it to an architect so we can make changes.
Yeah,
we
made changes to it, and long story short, in a year, during the course of that year, we just started confessing, this is our house. My wife started decorating it, and we started living in it in the spirit.
In our dreams.
Before we ever manifested.
Really?
And so when I teach that lesson on having a dream board or vision board, when I teach that lesson on seeing it in order to be it, it's not something that I learned. It's something that we experience, that we actually walk through in every phase of our life, from the first home we ever built and moved into, to moving into the ministry full time, to going into building a school. All of those things were just visions, were just dreams that we never had. Let me make it clear: we never had the resources that we needed to do what we were envisioning, but we had the passion
and the
faith and the work ethic to press on. And because of my wife, like I said earlier, she was right there with me the whole time, and we partnered together, and we used to have a most of y'all don't know what a mimeograph machine is, but it was a thing you had to crank and put ink on it and crank out to make the Sunday bulletins. That was we would do that.
We had it at our house.
Everything was done from the central hub of our home.
Even the tape, the cassette duplicator. This is before CDs and DVDs. For those in this generation, we actually had cassettes. And I would drive home real quick because it just so happened then our house was very close on the same street of the church that you and your brothers built as well. And so I would go home after church right after playing the benediction on the piano. And people wanted tapes of the service. I would crank those tapes out and bring them right back to church. I sure would. So we really did come from meager beginnings. And then, for some that might not know our full story, when we got married, we had dreams and visions. We were both involved in church, but we did not think and even talk about being in ministry full time.
Yeah.
I say we had dreams about everything else except for ministry. So the way God flipped the script was just amazing. It blew our minds. We had
that was my next question for you, Dr. Natalie, was how did you feel about your honest feelings when you started to lean into the idea that we're about to start pastoring a church together?
Yeah, it was totally out of left field. He wasn't expecting it. I wasn't expecting it. But one of the things I appreciate about my husband is that when he got the call first, certainly from his father as senior pastor, to actually go in ministry, and this was before he was ordained. You were a deacon at that time, the superintendent of Sunday school, and there was supposed to be another person that his father was actually grooming to become pastor of the church where we were at that time in Newport News, before we actually started Calvary Community Church in Hampton. And so I can remember that Sunday, the one that was supposed to be the pastor stood up during testimony time. How many of y'all in the chat remember testimony time? Put your virtual hands up. Testimony time. He got up during that time, instead of going to his father or anyone else, and said that he didn't understand it, but for some reason God was calling him to go to another church and he couldn't serve as pastor. That Sunday morning, as soon as he said that, I remember my husband leaning over to me and saying, I wonder what my daddy's going to do now. Well, he didn't know, and I didn't know that by the end of that week, his dad was going to call him over to his house and ask him to serve in an interim role until he got some help coming. And so, I was already involved, just as he was in ministry, in terms of the worship ministry, the education ministry, Sunday school teacher, those things. So we were involved in the church. So we were just biding our time, as he asked us to, until help came. That help, we didn't know, was really the Holy Spirit changing your heart, and then mine. And so I can remember him coming to me when it came time for him to be ordained, and we had to make a shift. At that time, we owned Francisco Construction Company. We had actually even gone to real estate school, and we were getting ready to pass the real estate exam, or getting ready to take the real estate exam, because our dreams and visions that we talked about before getting married was not only to own a construction company, because we went from renovating homes and doing roofs to actually building homes from the ground up. So we went from doing that to now having to give up the real estate school idea after we had graduated at the top of our class, because we were going to not only sell the properties, build them, but list them. And so all of that went out the window. And he said to me, he said, honey, I feel like God is calling me to go full time in the ministry, but I'm just going to ask you if you feel good about this, because I want you to know that our lifestyle is probably going to change. Because by this time, we had paid a lot of our creditors. We were comfortable. We had even started buying other homes to rent out. And so he said, everything as we know it is probably going to change. And he asked me, he said, what do you think? And so I'm going to tell you, I spoke before I could even think. Because what came out of my mouth, my mind was saying, wait a minute, you need to take time to process that. Because what came out of my mouth was, if God said do it, I'm behind you 100%. And so that's what happened. And we've been going full steam ever since, until we just passed the baton.
Absolutely. And we're going to get into that coming up in just a few seconds, because we are now about to introduce your children. So first came Nicole. Nicole's going to pop up on the screen really quick.
I'm first. I rock the world.
Then came Dr. Leslie. She's going to pop up. Where is she at? There she goes.
Oh, good morning, everybody.
It's still black.
Is it morning time?
Can't see you, Leslie.
Blacked out, but she's here. We hear your voice.
Leslie, turn the lights on in the room.
Oh, there she. And then, we see you online, but then came
there's
Lauren. Put Lauren on the screen.
Oh my gosh, that took forever. Mom had a 20-minute monologue.
We can't hear you.
So let me just tell y'all that while y'all were talking, Lauren told me to hurry up and go to the next section. She was ready to come on screen. So we had to go ahead and get Lauren on screen. All right, so welcome Nicole, Leslie, Lauren. We're all friends, so and it has been an honor to get to know you guys and to do ministry, life, all that good stuff with you guys. And welcome to the conversation. So we kind of got some groundwork in, and we've come up to the part to where now we're adding on to the Francisco clan. So let's start with Nicole. Nicole, let's go back to as far as you can remember and tell us how, just a few words, how was life growing up with Bishop and Dr. Natalie Francisco?
Life was strict, man. I couldn't do anything. But it was good. We had an amazing childhood. We felt like they just put us in this wonderful, loving world, and it was especially loving when it was just me. So they got married about 37 years ago. Then I came up after like 10 months, and I said, "Hey." So I'd like to think that I celebrate every anniversary with them. But it was good. I feel like we really had a wonderful childhood. We had a lot of fun. I remember Daddy building our house. I think we moved into it when I was like 1 year old. And every other year, I remember him building more and adding more onto the house. So we had a good time.
Cool.
And for the whole first 5 years, I had them all to myself. And then came Leslie.
And then came the middle child, Dr. Leslie. And Leslie, tell us a little bit, just
Leslie,
in
I
a few
can't
words
comment.
before we get into detailed questions. How was it as a child just growing up in the household? What's one thing that you remember the most?
Nicole pushing me down the steps and force feeding me apples.
You a lie.
That's why I was so fat as
So
a
the
child.
Apples don't make you
the
fat.
strictness that Nicole experienced in the early part fell off on you, huh? She
She took
duplicated
liberties.
it
Okay.
to
But it was cool as much as I can remember. There was definitely a lot of structure and also good times from what I can remember. Nicole and I are 5 years apart. And so I was only the youngest for a little bit, and Lauren came along 2 years later. So most of my life, I'm used to dealing with kind of the middle.
That's so good. That's so good. Lauren, tell us how it was growing up with two big sisters in
Oh
the
my
house.
Lord. Well, I always like to say that Leslie and Nicole
I
brought
can't hear Lauren.
happiness. Oh, can everyone else hear me?
Yeah, we
I
hear
can
you.
hear you.
It's just Nicole. That makes sense. She never hears me.
Oh.
So I like to say that they brought happiness and then I brought joy. So in 1991 is when the school started and when life really began for my parents. And I don't know. I think I grew up having multiple parents. My grandmother was living with us, and my mother, and then Nicole. And Leslie and I were siblings, but I always felt like Nicole was my mother up until the age of maybe 15. So yeah, life was pretty cool. It was very strict. We had to live life to a certain standard in order to enjoy life, or we'd be stuck
Hey,
in the house.
Lauren, do you
Mhm.
remember clicking between the last button for all of y'all who grew up in the 90s, switching between BET and the Disney Channel so we wouldn't get in
Oh yeah.
trouble trying to sneak music videos?
My parents didn't play around. My mom had a list that she printed out and put on the refrigerator, and if we didn't finish it, we didn't have a life. So essentially, you had to read books, do book reports, make good grades, make sure your room is clean, kiss your sister, hug her, know your Bible verses, have devotion, and then you can have a decent life. Go play outside.
That's what's up. Nicole dropped off for a second, but Glenn said Nicole Francisco baby was bossy.
Still
So
is.
y'all got a witness there. Dr. Natalie, tell us how was it raising three girls? I really want to hear from Bishop too when he gets back about living in a household with only girl, females. But tell us how it was just raising the three of them.
Well, I think it was a gift, really, to have three beautiful daughters who all had their unique personalities and giftings. And I believe it's any parent's responsibility to actually, see and pull out the best of what they see that rests within their child. And so I know that was a prayer of mine for all three of my daughters, our daughters, and that was that God would reveal to us, what their purpose was, just as He would reveal it to them. And I believe that our responsibility was not to push them in a direction that we wanted them to go, right?
That's correct.
But it was to, help gently lead them in the direction that they felt God was nudging them to go. So I took that responsibility seriously, as I know my husband did.
So good. Tell me this: who got into the most trouble?
Ooh, now who got in the most trouble? Do you mean by that? Who got the most spankings? Okay, we had different kinds of trouble.
Yeah, who got the most spanking?
Yeah, Congressman Lewis said get in good trouble and necessary trouble, but we had different kinds of trouble. We had talking trouble. Talking trouble with Leslie. We had getting in grown folks' business trouble. That was Nicole. And then
They're in Nicole.
Trying to be stubborn on the down low. That was Lauren.
Oh.
Yeah. But again,
You see how she couldn't just answer that
all
straight?
those things, because as I shared a little bit before, every child comes with their own personality and their own unique giftings. And I believe that as parents, we have to see what's going on in our children, even the things that we might not necessarily like, or we think that, we need to drive out of them. We need to see it as an opportunity that they have it for a reason. God gave them that certain part of their personality for a reason. And our job, again, as parents, is to channel that in the right direction. That's called to sublimate, to take what may seem negative and to turn it around in a positive direction.
I have to stop us. What were y'all thinking getting a bunch of preachers on the interview?
I know, we can't even talk.
Oh my God, it is a straight up monologue.
First of all,
I would like to say that I get my bossiness. I heard somebody say I was bossy. That totally came from my parents. My mom and dad are two big bosses. Oh, thank you. Okay, well, I'll wait.
No. I was gonna give you a chance to respond to that because while you were there were a lot of people saying.
Okay.
So I'm gonna give you a chance to respond to the
That's why my first book is gonna be called Think Like a Boss. Leadership thoughts. Because since I've been little, I have been a boss. And my mom used to tell me all the time, you're just so bossy. You're always trying to tell everybody what to do. But what do you do when you have solutions to provide? You have to share those solutions. It's a God-given gift. But I'm only saying, back to what I said earlier, Bishop and Dr. Nat, they are bosses by trade. So, and nature. So what am I going to do? They push me out. They came together. I just have to deliver what's side.
I bought popcorn for a reason. Keep my mouth
Lauren,
shut.
I got a question for you, Lauren. I saw some old YouTube videos you and Leslie.
Oh, I can answer that, Jasmine.
Playing music and singing and all that different. Tell us about that. What was going on?
Well, Leslie and I had a band in high school. We were straight up rock and rollers for life. And, my mother, taught us to live our life a certain way. And so, I wanted to spread the gospel in my own way. I'm not a preacher. So we decided to go on a mission of spreading the gospel of the fact that virginity rocks. So I may or may have not written a song at the age of 15 that's called Don't Have Sex. That is on YouTube. But who knows? You'll never know.
Y'all make sure y'all go watch that YouTube.
I'm a share.
Yes, please. Y'all make sure y'all go watch that YouTube video. Bishop, really quick. How was it raising three daughters, having a wife, all females? Did you ever win an argument?
And a mom.
and Mother Naomi. Can you hear me?
He pleads the fifth, Chris. He said, "I plead the
Oh, he
fifth."
played the fifth. Oh,
I
that's
will
how it
tell you
was.
that
It was
while
just
he's
quiet.
getting himself together. No. Dad, did you hear?
Oh.
Well, I'll tell you, Dad grew up in a house with 5 women because it was his mom
Mhm.
too. She moved in with us when I was like, how old were you, Lauren? You were like 1, so I was like 8
I was
years
2 or
old.
3. I was 2,
So
I
he's
think.
had 5 women.
3.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Okay. Cool. All
I
right.
would say he's like that a lot.
So, question for any of the daughters: tell us about one of your favorite vacations as a family, and tell us something interesting that happened on vacation.
Definitely Vermont. You
Oh,
got that?
Lauren, I was definitely gonna say that. We went to
Vermont was
Vermont. Can
good.
y'all hear me? We went to Vermont
Hmm.
in the coldest of winter.
You want me to tell it?
No, well, you can tell whatever part you want, but I gotta tell this part.
Well, it was freezing cold in
Did
Vermont,
y'all time out,
and we
time
wanted
out.
to go sledding.
Leslie's telling the story.
Um,
Take over.
I can't
Calm
hear
down.
Leslie. I can't hear at all.
Y'all can hear me though, right?
That is so
Sorry.
accurate.
I hear you,
All
Leslie.
I hear is
So
Lauren.
accurate. Okay. Anyways, we went to Vermont
Let me
and
log in.
we went to go visit the Ben and Jerry ice cream factory, I think, which was really cool. Lauren and I used to be addicted to this ice cream called Kaberry Kaboom. At any rate, Lauren and I, like she said, we were rock stars at the time, and so we were really into um, some different type of stuff. So at the time, we asked our parents and we said, "Hey, we want to go snowboarding." And they were like, "Oh, okay, cool." And so we excited. We thinking we about to like snowboard, like the X Games and all that kind of stuff. My dad basically says, them snowboards cost too much money. He goes to get a cookie sheet pan out of the oven of the rental, and he says, "Here, this works just like a snowboard. Slide on this." And I was like, the ghetto. Like, what in the world?
But we didn't know. We didn't know. We were the
But
only people who looked the way we looked, but we were out
that is
there on
so
the
true.
slopes with
But you
straight
had
up cookie
fun.
Right.
sheets.
We did have fun. I'm not gonna lie. So that
But
was
you had
fun.
fun.
And at the same time too, we went hot tubbing when it was a freezing cold outside and we all got sick. And I think that's when we watched Never Been Kissed on VHS. That was a lot of fun too. We all sitting there with
Bishop, you have something
cold.
to say about that one?
Innovative.
Well, I will add this piece about vacation, and this is just advice to parents. Anytime you want to get to really, really know your children, because when we first started vacation with our children, we want a tight budget. So we would we didn't fly to Orlando. We didn't you take airplanes and places. We would drive, and we would all get one hotel room. So if you really want to know what your children are like, spend a week with them in one hotel room in 2 double beds, and you will find out the real deal. So then by the time you get back home, you know what you need to work on.
Exactly.
Because that's quality, intimate time together.
So good. So good.
And to add to that, I will
It was
say
it was
that
fun time.
our parents did a really good job. We didn't know growing up how tight of a budget that we were on. So they did a great job creating memorable experiences where they just really kind of made it seem like this is what we do. Like we innovate, we recreate. So we didn't know that we didn't have but so much budget growing up. We just really enjoyed our time together.
That's so good.
So pro tip.
Good. That's good. Nicole, you have something to add about the vacation? Favorite vacation memory?
Well, see it as though I didn't hear the memory they were sharing. I'm guessing they said Vermont. Y'all talked about the cookie sheets and sliding down
Yeah.
on the cookie sheets.
Yeah.
Okay. We went to Ben and Jerry's. Did y'all talk about that?
Yeah.
That was fun. Oh, well, they said everything. I don't know.
Okay. Cool.
My internet is having some trouble.
All
I
right,
will
so
say that my dad, when we were growing up for Christmas, we never got to understand why we knew that Santa didn't exist from a young age. Our parents never let us believe in Santa because my dad was like, "I'm not about to let y'all let some fat man But you believe some fat man is just bringing presents down the chimney. I work my butt off. You gonna know about every single present down the chimney. So they put on every single present, mom and dad. Nothing from Sam.
Yep, forever. That's right.
So good, y'all. Listen, y'all make sure y'all share this. We're having a good time just hanging out with the Franciscos tonight, just having a candid conversation. We're just talking. And if y'all have any questions that y'all want me to ask, go ahead and put them in the comment section, and I will love to ask your questions tonight. Let me see if we got any. Okay, so y'all go ahead and ask questions if you want to. All right, so
Jasmine asked one.
I want to ask y'all this. We'll talk to the daughters. Tell me what's one of your favorite dishes that your parents cook.
Parents or parent?
Right. There's a distinction there.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Mom does not cook.
Now, mom can make
My
a bacon, egg, and
mom.
cheese sandwich,
It's been a decade
Oh
though.
yeah, they're really good.
and she can reheat.
No, she made one a couple years
Mom,
ago. It
mom
was
doesn't
good.
cook. She fixes. Like she'll go in there and fix something, but she doesn't cook.
Yeah, so what she really fixes is really good Marie Callender's chicken pot pies in the oven, or like frozen chicken cordon bleu in the oven. But yeah, that's about it.
Y'all just
And
has to be
I'm glad
petty.
she can't
Y'all
hear us
just,
right now. Oh, you know what she does? She for Thanksgiving, all of us cook something, and my mom, before I started making fresh cranberry sauce, she would go get the can and she would slice that cranberry sauce so beautifully and lay it all beautiful on a crystal tray, and
Ocean
that was her
spray
contribution.
only.
Ocean spray only. That's right. But
okay.
but she wouldn't buy it. Dad had to buy it from the store because she doesn't grow in grocery stores.
Okay,
True.
well then tell us what's your favorite dish from Bishop.
Hmm.
Hmm.
He
For
cooks every
me,
I
day.
know what Leslie says. That's easy.
So all of them.
Leslie, you love Hawaiian chicken
I
with
do. I was
pineapple
gonna say that. Yeah, and rice. I can eat rice every day.
and rice
I
and
guess
onions.
prime rib, right? Prime rib.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Oh yes, a prime rib roast. Okay, it's so good with some fresh mashed potatoes, homemade, which Lauren makes really well too, with a little dollop of butter on top, and some haricot vert, which are the really skinny string beans.
Okay. In detail there to go.
Right.
All right. I think Bishop and Dr. Nat get their camera back together, but we're gonna keep on going. There they go. They're back. They're back. All right. So let me ask you guys this question. How was it when you? Because each one of you all left for college and different things like that, right? So talk to us about what was your parents' reaction? Because some parents are like really emotional. Some parents are like, just go. What do you remember your parents' reaction was when you left for college?
Should I go first since I went first? So I went right up the street to William and Mary, just 30, 40 minutes from home. And I think my mom was really excited. She was so excited for me. I had gotten a scholarship to go, so maybe that was why too. And then so I went there, and I just remember my dad. Oh, poor thing. My dad, I think he thought I was going to Timbuktu. I mean, the whole time, my dad just had this sad little droopy face. And he even says when I was running into the dorm, I was all happy and excited. And he just kept hugging me and saying, baby, it's going to be all right. And all this stuff. And then when I went into the dorm, he was just standing there staring at me like he didn't even want to leave. So I would say that dad had a really rough time because I did see him quite often and hear from him every day.
Okay, okay. Leslie?
Yeah. For
But
me,
mom was like, bye.
my story's a little different because I went halfway across the country. I went to Tulsa, Oklahoma. And so my whole narrative was, even though I was the middle child, I've always been, how can I describe it? The most trusting. And so I kind of like would befriend anybody. And so I said, well, maybe if I move away, I'll kind of grow up a little bit more, gain some more independence. And so my parents were struggling. I mean, it was a wreck. Like, I remember being on the plane on the exit row. I was sitting in the middle, my mom and dad hovering over me, tears dripping down my neck. My mom had like the raccoon eyes from mascara. My dad was struggling. I mean, literally, it took him, I think, 3 years for him to resolve that I was out in Tulsa. He visited at least twice a year. He called me and he said, "Hey, if you transfer to Christopher Newport right now, I'll buy you any car you want." And in retrospect, I wonder if I should have taken him up on that offer. And I think I I probably would have, but then I wouldn't have Caleb. So Caleb was my saving grace coming from Tulsa. So I made out at least for that part.
That's what's up. That's what's up. Lauren, how about you? By you
Literally,
had practice
by the
by then.
yeah, by the time I got to the third child, mine was a normal day. It was kind of like, all right, hop up
Bye.
in the car. My parents were older, so my dad was like, I can't lift nothing up these steps. My mom said, I'm not carrying nothing. Call your cousins. I'll make your bed for you in the door. And so literally it was like a normal, like, all right, love ya. Like it was not sad at all. But I will say it hit my dad after the fact. Like I think he was like, okay, this is the third time. I know what to expect. She'll be fine. But he used to roll up at my university every Friday because he knew my schedule and he wouldn't tell me. He would just be, I would see his car just in front of my dorm and he'd be like, beep, 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 beep. Hey, it's me. Hey, hey, hey. I'm like, oh, hey, Dad. So everyone was just like, oh, there's
Aw.
Mr. Francisco. Like he couldn't wait until the weekend. Even if he could take me to lunch, he wanted to know my friends. I think it really hit him because all his kids were out of the house. So it hit him after the fact. Like
Right.
he was like, hold up. So, but yeah, the drop off was literally like they were dropping me off to like get a milkshake from Chick-fil-A.
So good. All right. So look, I got another question. Since I got the three of you on here right now, we can talk and y'all can get in a little bit of trouble real quick. Okay. So has there ever been any time growing up with you guys being sisters, having a close bond, having to be each other's protectors, that anybody tried to come in and mess with one of the sisters and all three of you had to respond?
Nicole intervened in Oklahoma a couple times. I think that
They are
Yeah,
most
but he was
protective of
saying
me.
for all
They
of us.
fight.
oh, for all of us
Yeah.
to come through.
Oh
Mm.
yeah,
No, just either way, it's fine.
yeah. Oh,
I
okay.
don't know.
Yeah,
I think
definitely. I had to roll on up to Oklahoma.
You said you
Yeah,
had to go
they
to
all
Oklahoma.
Go ahead,
Leslie
Lauren.
was there.
fought for me while I was in Oklahoma. Like
Oh,
Nicole had me break up with a boyfriend. Lauren told me that I had um she told me I had McDonald's friends disguised in Ruth's Chris mask.
was I right or was I right?
So Lauren,
right. Hello.
so I mean we've definitely
Wait,
built
wait, wait.
and
You said
Let's.
I
McDonald's
know.
friends disguised as Ruth Chris?
Yeah.
Uh,
You know how people come through be trying to
And
put on a
McDonald's had
front
disguises with
and you
Chris.
see right through them.
right.
It ain't nothing wrong with McDonald's, but don't
Hmm.
be pretending to be a buttered filet when you really just a Happy Meal.
Right, and it was the same
So
thing
was
with
it
Leslie's
difficult?
boyfriend at
Let
the
me ask
time,
you
and I was
guys
like,
this because Nicole,
mm-mm.
well, all three of you guys, is it difficult finding someone to date when you have two other sisters that's watching? Like how, like is it hard?
I feel like we're very
I don't think so, but that's probably because
You don't care.
She,
well. I still have commitment issues, so I don't think it's my sisters. I think it's just me.
I agree with you, Lauren. It's definitely you.
Yeah.
it is you. And I never had any issue. I was so much older than them, though. So I'm 5 years older than Leslie and 7 years older than Lauren. So by the time I was dating, they were trying to play with Power Rangers. So, I mean, it was a different scenario.
okay, so I got a question. Um, so Nicole and Leslie, you guys have kids. You guys have a son now, so you have children now. And I want to ask you this because I've heard it said that usually parents are a lot more stricter on U.S. kids than they are when you have grandchildren. Have you guys experienced that with Bishop and Dr. Nat?
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. I couldn't do anything, say anything, eat anything. Phil goes over their house. He has chocolate ice cream, Hershey's Kisses, French fries every day. He didn't even, I mean, they introduced him to so much other stuff and they just let him do whatever. Every day we go over there, they're like, oh, we got you a new toy. And I'm like, hold on
Right.
now. So they are definitely grandparents to the max.
I definitely second that. I mean, when it's me, it's y'all need to X, Y, Z, A, B, C, D, E, whatever all the alphabets are. And then when they go over there, it's like, what they do to grandma, grandpa's baby? Come here, little Jack, Jack. Blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, whatever.
Bishop, Dr.
It's
Nat, is that
Right.
true? Is that a
Meanwhile, when
true?
we were kids,
Is that an accurate description?
Almost,
Oh.
almost. We do some little disciplinary things when necessary, but yeah, we do feel like part of the grandparent role, on top of assisting, our own daughters and sons with their children, is to spoil them a little bit. I mean, that's the joy we get out of this season of our lives. So yeah, I think that part was accurate.
We did our part, so now we're gonna.
This is
we're
the
gonna have
gravy.
fun. The fun part.
Yeah, this is the gravy.
Right, now you get to have fun, right? Laura, someone
Yeah.
said they love your one
Take
line.
them home, take them out, and bring them back.
Okay, so
oh, we bring them a lot too.
you said what, Nicole? I mean,
She said we
I
bring
said
them a
we bring
lot.
them over a lot too. So
Oh.
we are grateful. Thank you.
Okay, cool.
Very active grandparents.
We see them
All
quite
right,
often.
so I'm gonna ask this
Right
to let me ask this to Lauren. Lauren, have you ever, and this is a little bit of a serious question, but have you ever felt any pressure being a pastor's kid growing up? Like, have you ever felt like you just had to be a certain way because you were their child?
Of course. But I think I've always been a very like a lone wolf. So at the end of the day, I was conscious and aware of like the kind of person I needed to be. But at the same time, I know this sounds horrible and forgive me, but I didn't care. Um, but at the end of the day, I wasn't a bad kid. I didn't do anything off the wall. I wasn't out here like, oh yes, I can't wait to go out and smoke and act crazy. I was a good kid. At the end of the day, I really just wanted to go to a museum or just go with my friends and go to a concert. But I think there is a mantle, like a crown that you have to wear to know that every decision that you do, people are watching. So where my other friends would be like, oh, we can go do this, or we can go here. I'm like, nope, I can't even be associated with it. I can't be around it. And then it just became like a norm to me. It really just became like, it's still normal to us now. Like there's just certain things that we just don't do, certain places we don't go. And I don't see it as a burden. I see it as a blessing that we're able to show people that you can be normal, have a good time, have friends of all different walks of life, but not partake in what other people partake in.
That's so good. That's so good. Nicole, how about you? You got anything to add to that? Because now you work. How long have you been working with your parents?
Don't ask her that.
Okay, all my life I had to fight. No, I'm just playing. In 2000, let's see, I've been full time in church since 2005, so it's been 15 years this year. So I've been working with them a long time. And then the original question was about, wasn't it about growing up
Pressure.
as a
As a
PK?
PK,
Did you
yeah,
feel?
growing up.
Right. Yeah, I would say it always was a different level of pressure. Like I would look around and see how other kids could just kind of do a little bit of whatever they wanted or get in trouble and still recover from it. Like I just knew that there was a certain standard that my parents held, and there was a certain standard. I mean, whether other people were involved or not, granted, we were the first family that I had to uphold. So my mom always taught me high standards. So it wasn't as much pressure from other people as it was we feared our parents. Okay, so we knew that they had expectations of us, and we wanted to make sure that those expectations were met. And so, ever since then, it wasn't as big of a deal to be a first family. Although I understand the pressures that everybody else felt, but they held the standard so high that we were used to it. So
Right, yeah, and I think it's super awesome, right? Because I can kind of relate as a PK myself. Like, there's a balance between it because I see some PKs that pressure causes them to like run away and be like, I don't ever want to have anything to do with ministry or church or
right.
anything. But it's a balance of expectation. But I love you and I'm giving you a little freedom to be yourself. But still, there's a
Hmm.
standard that causes you to want to stick. Which brings me to Dr. Leslie. Of course, the baton is being handed over to you, and you are standing in your father's footsteps to lead the church that his father started. And so I just want you really quick. I mean, I know you kind of shared a little bit with us as a church family, but just give us like some of your honest like thoughts about how you really felt when you stepped into that, or when you began thinking about stepping into that role.
Yeah, so ever since I was young, I always knew that I wanted to be a preaching pastor, but as that day got closer, you think once you get handed something, it's like, oh, I'm good. But in my situation, it was, oh my gosh, like this is a lot. Like I can honestly say once the transition announcement happened, spiritually, like I felt a different weight. Like I was driving with Caleb even one time we were in Mississippi. I said, I just feel a strong burden. Like I don't know what this is. This feels different. Like the weight feels different. And it's crazy because when you're younger, I can remember when I was in seminary, like nobody was right. I was the only person that was right, if I'm honest. I remember going into churches like they can't pronounce Greek, like that's not how you parse that verb, and all of this stuff. And now that I'm in the position that I'm in now, being 31, I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel like I don't know anything. And so it's really teaching me just even more dependence and reliance on the Holy Spirit, on the wisdom of like elders and people who have done this work. I have a greater appreciation for what my parents have done and the tenure that they've had in ministry, because not only is there external pressure, but you also, as a leader, honestly have this internal pressure as well, right? Like there's this performance anxiety as well, because you're like, well, did I crush it? Did I nail it? Did I do the right thing? Did I make the wrong decision? And so you're constantly battling this internal and external pressure, and you're having to reconcile that, um, which is fine. I'm learning to do that dance. But at the same time, I think the other difficult part is when you know that you have tried your best not to be perfect, but I guess to be blameless and to try to live your life to the best of your ability and to try to do this call well. And you just have people who, if they can't just find anything on you, that they'll make up stuff. So I know I can speak even for us several years ago. I remember with my family as a whole, as we were starting to have some sort of success in ministry, however most people would define that, there would be inboxes. Do you remember this, Lauren? And tweets and DMs like, "Oh, look at you, looking how you looking, like you crackhead." I mean, just crazy stuff in the inbox, just
Yeah.
inappropriate things, people making up stuff, talking about, "Well, I know you're doing XYZ. Ain't no way that a family can just do well. I know that like y'all are hiding something." And so it's really just kind of reconciling with these pressures. But I think we're learning it, and it's been a good dance, and I'm looking forward to where it goes from here. So I think one of the commitments that we've been talking about with our staff too and with our church is just leading through this journey and having authenticity. And so one thing for me is I think it's helpful to invite people on the journey and to be able to say, hey, this is kind of the season, the tension that I'm feeling right now, or that we're navigating, or showing people small wins. One of the things that's been very difficult for me is how I would see other pastors to say, oh, we started with 27 people in a small ballroom and now we're at 27,000. And I'm like, well, what happens with those incremental steps? And so I think that we want to be the people to say, hey, we had 29 live viewers on YouTube last week, and this week we had 41. Like, what does it look like if you invite people into the journey versus waiting for these extreme polar opposites to say, oh, God took me from, broke to blessed in 24 hours. I just wanted people to be able to see the journey up close and personal.
So good, so good, so good. Bishop and Dr. Nat, I want to throw this one to you guys as we're about to wrap up here in a few minutes. So all three of your daughters, they worked at the church, and they're in different roles. And tell us how their personalities that you observed through the years, tell us how those parallel to what they're doing now and how it benefits them in the roles that they're in.
Okay. I think he said both of us, but yeah, he threw it. But as I was sharing a little bit earlier, when you asked me about like what kind of trouble did they get in, or who got in the most trouble, those very things that I talked about were the very things, which is why I shared, for parents, don't just dismiss those things that you think are negative in your child. Those are the very things that God used to propel each of them into the areas where they are now. I shared that Nicole, was like in grown people's business. She had the kind of like the very assertive personality, was the light of the room, the light of the party. You can see, not only administratively, and those who are close staff know that he's all about business, but also, there's that side of her as well, that because of her bubbly personality, she can come into the room and you're going to notice that she's there. You can tell when she's on the praise team, the bubbliness is there. I enjoy all of our worship and praise team and our musicians. They are just awesome. But Nicole's personality, oftentimes when I just get a glimpse of her, I'm still reminded of that little girl who was 4 years old, who went into the refrigerator and got out a carrot stick and used it as a microphone and was singing into it. So, her singing, all of the things that she is doing now, they really matriculated through her maturation process as she was growing up, and she's operating in those areas. Leslie, when I shared with you that she was the child that got into talking trouble, she was the child where every mark on her progress report and her report card would be really good, but it was that talkative box that was always checked. Those were always the notes that she got into. So, after, sharing with her, both of us, about how, she needed to calm that down a little bit, God really dealt with us. And at that time, she was in our Calvary Christian Academy school. So I was looking at ways in which she could use that gift even as a preschooler, because she wasn't the only one. There was some other very talkative ones. So I started some debate clubs and some things where she could utilize those gifts, learning poetry, reciting things, skits, plays, and she shined in that. And then ministry moments, we let her do her first little mini sermon when she was 7 years old. And she said at 3 years old to us, and this was not prompted or prodded by us, but she told us at 3 years old that when she grew up, she wanted to be a preaching pastor. And lo and behold, she didn't deviate from that path. She knew what school she wanted to go to, and she's in that path today. Lauren was the most, I said she was the stubborn child. But stubborn, I've told parents this before as well, that stubborn can be good when it's channeled in the right direction. And so Lauren's stubbornness is really a gift and a blessing, because no one could ever talk her into doing anything that she didn't want to do. And they still can't. And so Lauren is the kind of child where even in ministry, again, it blew our minds, because we never thought that all three of our girls would end up working full-time in ministry. But Lauren is able to do those things that are in alignment with her heart. She's always had a heart, a couple of things. She has had a heart for people, just as all of our girls do. She's had a heart for wanting to reach people in a different way and do those things personally. Lauren is the kind of child opposite from her sisters, whereas her sisters can be on a stage and have no fear, no problem. Lauren is the kind of child where she wanted to be one-on-one with people. And even when she was in college, I remember her playing her guitar in the park to the homeless. She's done things in missions in South Africa that many people are aware of, in Kenya, in Uganda, and she's able to be our communications director and our missions outreach person from our church, because that is where her heart has always been. Lauren, you can tell us, your experience when you were a teenager. Your first mission trip was when you were, what, in the 8th grade?
I think I was 14,
Yeah,
15
yeah. And so,
in Nicaragua.
right.
And my mom she was very hands-on, but she also was one of those nosy moms. So I wrote about my experience in Nicaragua, and mom took my diary and read it. And then once she knew what my passions were, she helped them come to fruition. But she definitely read it. And she was like, "Oh, you're a great writer." And that's how I started writing, because my mom pushed me to writing more, because she was like, "You need to share what you write with the world, Lord. Share it." I was like, "Oh." So, well, that was all because she read what I wrote.
Yes,
But
mom is a
I
very
think
engaged
that
mother.
my husband and I are blessed in that we had a chance to help rear and shape the most beautiful gifts that God could have ever given us. And out of all that we've been able to do together, and I don't want to speak for you, but I believe that we have this in common. Out of all the things that we've accomplished and that God has allowed us to do, our greatest treasures are in our children.
Yes.
And so they call me Puddles. I feel something welling up now, but they are
Oh, Puddles.
they're gifts to the
Let it
body
flow.
of Christ. They're gifts to C3. They're gifts to their own individual families. Leslie and Lauren, and I'm sorry, Nicole, Nicole.
Lauren.
Lauren is a gift too, but I was saying they're gifts also to their own individual families that they've started to.
Awesome.
Lauren is still on her own journey now. Yeah.
I can say that I can say that that's the truth. Like, no matter how busy they were, because they were extremely busy, especially in the 90s and early 2000s.
Yes.
There were times where I was just like, oh my gosh, because I don't know, I would not. I mean, of course we were at school, so we didn't see all the work that they would do, but I can tell they were exhausted at the end of the day. But no matter how tired they were, or if they got home at 9 p.m., they still lit up when they saw us, made sure that every morning and every night we were their priority. And I can say honestly that I never felt like forsaken. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of times, I know in ministerial families, they'll say, my parents put this first, they put this first, they put this first. Like, they would drop anything and everything. Even if I was just like, hey, I just want someone to have lunch with, can you get sushi with me? Like, they will cancel a meeting just because I want to go get sushi. So they always put us first and still do.
So good, so good. All right, so last question, kind of a question. If we were to shoot a movie, the Francisco family, blank, 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 blank. I want to know, what would you title the movie? If you could just wrap your journey up in a phrase to title the movie. We're going to start with the youngest this time and go on up. So we'll start with you, Lauren.
Ooh. Lord, I have no clue. You said a movie about just our family dynamic?
Yes, your family movie. What would it be titled?
Unbothered. No, I'm just kidding.
Wait.
Oh man, I don't know. You gotta come back to me. Unbothered's the first thing that came to mind, though.
Okay. All right. Leslie?
Yeah, I think if we could reinvent something, it would maybe be the Cosby's 2.0, but in real life, not made up.
Okay.
I didn't have a fun title. I had to use all my creative energy for Fun Sunday, so I'm on a break.
Nicole, I know you got a good title.
Okay, so my title is To Infinity and Beyond, because I feel like my parents taught us that we can literally do anything. Like, they modeled it. The sky is the limit. And whatever you set your heart and your mind and your hands to do can prosper. And I feel like we live that in every area of our lives. So I feel like whether we were younger growing up, even to now with our own families, like the sky's the limit. My dad is well in his 60s and he just got his pilot's license. He took a class with a whole bunch of 20-year-olds. My mom's sitting here writing books. And we're like, oh, mom, you should book a 3-part series. And she goes, no, I'll just write one book that's 600 pages. I mean, so they have such drive, and we have that same drive. And we just want to pump that into everybody else that we meet, that to infinity and beyond. The sky's the limit. The world's yours.
I suppose
San
it could be,
Francisco.
our movie would probably be entitled just Legacy, because that seems to sum up everything. That I think that one thing our parents taught us is not to live just for ourselves, but live with your grandchildren in mind. Even though I don't even have a child, I'm already living with my grandchildren in mind. Every decision I make, everything that I do, thinking about generations that you possibly won't even see yet, great, great, great grandchildren. So I think Legacy would be a great name for whatever we do or create.
Legacy makers.
Mhm.
You're part of something way bigger.
Yes, bigger. Well, I don't want to be bigger
Oh,
everywhere.
Beyonce.
J-
You're part of something
All right,
way
Bishop,
bigger.
Dr. Matt, y'all get the last word.
Bigger than you.
Title.
Well, I guess if I
That's a good one. The
y'all
best
may
of life
not
and
know
back
this
then.
because it might be a little dated, but
Uh-oh.
Oh Lord.
if I had to give it a theme song and a
Twilight
theme,
Zone.
I would use Sly and the Family Stone. It's a
Uh-oh.
family affair.
Uh-oh. Okay. It's a
Hey.
family affair.
Show us how you would
Don't
dance,
know
Dad, if that came on. Show us how you would move.
Sing, mama. Oh, please, Dad. Do y'all remember Jazz Dance?
I thought he was gonna say Superfly.
No, I won't want no family like that.
Superfly.
I know.
Mommy,
I'm just kidding.
I want to come with you.
All right, cool. Welcome
Okay, I'm
to
gonna read it as
the
soon as we finish.
platform, Littlefield, the next generation.
Right. That's right.
Hey.
All right, listen, we've had a great time talking to you guys. Thank you guys for being a family that's in reach, that's touchable, that's transparent, that builds meaningful relationships with the people that you get to lead. We are excited to serve with you guys in this season, and we're so excited about whatever is going to happen next in the life of our church, in the life of your family, in the life of our families and future families and all that good stuff. So thank you so much. You guys have set an amazing example for people to be able to follow and pattern themselves about. One thing I love about all of you is that every time I've been around you guys, you genuinely, from my perception, seem to love being around each other. Like you just love. It's a joy to come together, to have game nights. You guys welcome me into your family. I've had Thanksgiving with you guys and all that good stuff. So, you know, since COVID started, I haven't been able to come swimming
Oh,
in the
no.
swimming pool, but hopefully next summer. But we love you guys so much. C3 loves you. And thank y'all so much for tuning in to this interview. We're going to say goodbye right now. And we will see you guys
We love you
on
guys.
Sunday.
Love
Make sure you
y'all.
join us.
Bye.
We have
Love
one
Pittsfield.
more day of Fun Week tomorrow, right? So tomorrow
Oh,
is
Yes,
Fashion
it's
Day.
Cook
So
With
you
Me,
gotta
C3.
put on your best outfit and take a picture and make sure you tag C3 Fun Week and hashtag C3 is me, and just tag us on all social media. And then also tune in tomorrow evening for a cooking session, right? Who's gonna be cooking?
Can
Not
you
me.
switch with me, PC?
Uh-oh. You said you, Dr. Leslie?
I'll be cooking.
It's supposed to
Oh,
be Nicole
Nicole.
and I'm the sous chef. But you can
Okay.
take my place.
Leslie's the sous chef.
Nicole's gonna be cooking tomorrow night, so y'all make sure y'all tune in so you can get some cooking tips. She do know how to cook.
Start your rice tonight if you're cooking with us tomorrow.
Yes. Get your ingredients tonight. I need y'all to have day-old rice so we can make one of the dishes that we're gonna make tonight. It cannot still be
We'll,
sticky and hot.
we'll
It's gotta
post
be
the
cold out
ingredients
the fridge.
after this.
All right, so the
Yep.
ingredients list is coming out. Make sure you get your ingredients and make sure you know how to cook what she's gonna be cooking. All right, thank y'all so much for tuning in. We're gonna say bye again. We'll wave at y'all, and we are off
Bye.
for tonight. Thank y'all for tuning in.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.